and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And of course we're going to take another look at the House of the Dragon. Or specifically, will it be able to let fans forgive Game of Thrones Season 8 for all its foul awfulness? Right, on a personal view, I don't think so. Season 8 so destroyed Game of Thrones for me that it didn't just mean I can't watch Season 8, it means I can't go back and watch anything. The whole of Game of Thrones is now destroyed for me. That's how completely destroyed it is because of what went on in Season 8. You may feel differently. It may be that the House of the Dragon will allow you to forgive them. I know that I will be watching House of the Dragon and I know it's going to be good. But, you know, Season 8, nah, I can't forgive them. Let's look at the article. Right, as I said, it's from Den of Geek, and the heading, will Game of Thrones be forgiven for Season 8 before House of the Dragon? And as I say, my personal view is no, not a chance. It was just so appallingly destructive. But we shall go through. And it does say, warning contains spoilers for the Game of Thrones Season 8. Trust me, no it doesn't, because if you've seen it, you know it's rubbish. And if you haven't seen it, don't bother watching it. Anyway, we all know the story by now. There are a handful of shows that were once extremely popular, but took a sharp turn for the worse towards the end. True Blood, Lost, How I Met Your Mother, and Dexter. All left viewers with a distinct feeling of, huh, was that it? Following their finales. Especially Dexter. I was so disappointed with the original Dexter's finale. Then they brought back the last series, and I suppose how it ended was probably how it was always going to end, or how it should have ended. But it was a bit of a no story. You wanted a bit more Dextering, and there wasn't a lot of it. Anyway, there's a reason that the show's final season didn't just leave viewers to drift away, but left some too upset to want to ever revisit. This is true. This is where I am. I can't go back and start one again. You know, I would watch Season 1 and 2, Season 1, 2 and 3. As each season came back out, I would go back to the beginning and watch to get up to speed each time. I can't watch any episodes of Game of Thrones now. Game of Thrones was built around a single central question. Who will sit on the Iron Throne? When the answer to that question proved unsatisfactory, the lengthy journey to reach an answer that was a total letdown left a bitter taste in the mouth. Oh, it was so bad. Of course, Game of Thrones' final season had more problems than just the issue of who ended up as King of the Seven Kingdoms. The sequence of events, putting the huge final battle against the Night King halfway through the shortened season, while the actual finale focused on more human political side of things, probably sounded like a good idea at the time, since it was the human politics side of the story that brought in so many mainstream viewers back in Season 1. But by the time we get to Season 8, viewers knew that they were watching a fantasy show and they were hyped for the big battle against the encroaching zombie hordes that had been promised since the very first scene in the very first episode. And the battle itself didn't disappoint, but everything that happened after the epic showdown in The Long Night felt like an afterthought. You couldn't even watch The Long Night. The Long Night was like 80 minutes of a black screen. It was awful. There was nothing to see, nothing was happening, and it was boring. That was the point. It was so boring. Anyway, even more frustratingly, the storyline of those last 3 episodes, and indeed Daenerys' storyline throughout Season 7 and 8, was horribly rushed. We have reason to believe, based on prophecies from the books, that Martin's intentions for Daenerys' character arc are in broad strokes similar to the TV show. There are plenty of hints throughout the story that she may be headed down a dark path. But they did it too quickly. She was like, nice, bad. There was no slope. It needed to be a gentle slope, and it wasn't. There's her ruthless actions as queen, a particularly grim moment before the crucifixion. Does they mean the crucifixion? Of 163 Grand Masters in Marine, which is an inversion of the historical Crassus crucifying the survivors of Spartacus' slave revolt in Roman history. Daenerys also thinks and talks a lot about why her father, Aerys II Targaryen, went destructively mad, and whether she is prone to the same thing. And let's not start on a Song of Ice and Fire's problematic approach to genetics. There isn't time. However, Daenerys' turn from well-intentioned saviour figure to dark and destructive evil queen was, and has been observed many times before, rushed to the point of not making any sense. No, it was instantaneous. It was a switch. It was a flick of a switch. The change was too quick. Her shifting attitude switching far too swiftly. Yeah, we were presented with a character who spent most of her series saving people, destroying a city that was trying to surrender because she wanted revenge against two people, Euron Greyjoy and Cersei Lannister. Her character and actions stopped making sense because we hadn't seen enough of a slow burn on this change. That's it. It was literally just, oh, well, I've got that now, do it because it looks good, and the writers are lazy and want to get out and go and do the next thing. Daenerys wasn't the only character shortchanged by the final season. While seeing Cersei crushed by a falling building, we might have been mildly satisfying. Audiences were probably hoping for something more dramatic. I think Cersei should have had a long, drawn-out death. It should have been the most gory, agonising thing that would have been totally satisfying for the audience who've put up with crap for long enough. We needed that. So, oh, look, here I am, building dead. That wasn't Cersei's death. Cersei's death was a horrible, long, drawn-out affair. Not bang, gone. And Jaime Lannister's story took a bizarre turn. After a lengthy and well-paced redemption arc, culminating in him and the noble-hearted Brienne finally getting it on, he suddenly leaves Brienne in the middle of the night and goes back to Cersei. And then finally, to top it all off, we get the answer to the single question that has been driving the whole series since the death of Robert back in Season 1. Who will sit on the new replacement for the now destroyed Iron Throne? And the answer is Bran Stark. Well, talk about milksop. He's a character who told his sister in Season 7 that he can never be Lord of anything because he isn't even entirely human anymore, as he is now the Three-Eyed Raven. He's become almost completely emotionless and as such is a charisma vacuum. He's nothing. And he is surely the worst possible candidate to be king. He should never be king. He shouldn't be anything. Tyrion, in my view, it should have been Tyrion who became king. To top it all off, Tyrion gets a terrible speech. Peter Dinklage does his absolute best to save it and nearly succeeds, but it is still awful. In which he insists that not only should they choose a monarch based on whoever has the best story, not whoever has the biggest sword, or is the most intelligent, or whoever has the best claim to the throne in what's left of the hereditary monarchy, or whoever is the most popular with the people. Those criteria, by the way, would give us Jon Snow, Tyrion himself, Jon Snow again, or Sansa Stark. But that Bran, who was physically assaulted early on, wandered around for a bit, skipped an entire season learning prophecy, and then showed up basically to tell everyone, I knew that was going to happen, had a better story than the woman who killed the Night King, and the man who defeated the Mad Queen Daenerys, or the woman who reclaimed the North. It was a disaster. It was so bad. If you were going to have a king, it had to be Tyrion. You could have probably done Jaime Lannister or Tyrion. They had to be ending up as the king to be satisfying. Neither. Oh, awful. But was it a forgivable disaster? HBO are gambling that it was. That their new prequel series, House of the Dragon, is coming this August. Not only does it assume a continued appetite for all things Game of Thrones in a world where some have turned their back on the series, it's focused on House Targaryen, the very house that comes out of the finale looking so bad. Well, I think it will be popular because it's not Game of Thrones. I mean, it's set a long time earlier. And we're never going to forgive Game of Thrones. And I'm never going to revisit Game of Thrones. But this show is different. It is Targaryen based. So you do have the familiarity of Westeros and the families and the things that are going on. And I think they will have learnt from Game of Thrones how not to end a series. So I actually have great hope for it. And it does look fantastic. And undoubtedly, it will blow Lord of the Rings out of the water. This will be the big one. HBO are going to have, I don't know, let's say 7-8 years with the gaps in between seasons. They could be looking at a 10-year period of being total kings. Whereas the Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power is going to suck. It'll get 3 series and then be quietly dropped because nobody will be watching it. Anyway, while all those people who named their daughters Khaleesi may be looking how to legally change someone's name, Daenerys' character arc probably is, in the long run, forgivable. No, it's not. If we take time to rewatch the series, which I won't do, we'll see some hints dropped here and there, and some fans have predicted it all along. Nobody predicted it would be that bad. The problem with Daenerys' story, aside from upsetting fans of the character, wasn't so much the story as the pacing. With hindsight and knowing where it's heading, that may not be anyone's favourite story development, but it will likely be something fans can live with. Yes, if they started introducing the madness in, say, Series 5, halfway through Series 5, and just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit more in Series 6, she starts going a bit bonkers mad in 7, and then she goes full-scale evil in 8, you'd see it and you'd follow along, and that would be fine. But to just simply go, yeah, everything's cool, I'm mad now, it's not right. Cersei and Jaime's endings are trickier. Cersei gets her comeuppance, sort of, not very satisfying though, and viewers can probably live with that. No, I needed an awful death for her. But Jaime's story is left flapping all over the place. His primary overriding motivation throughout is love and the things we do for love, so his ending is perhaps forgivable. He loves Cersei too much and can't help but go back to her, but it's frustrating, as if his apparent redemption had been such a satisfying story. Exactly, and that redemption was one of the reasons he could have ended up as king. And in my view, it should, like I said, it should have been him or Tyrion. But then we come back to King Bran, and this is where fans are going to struggle. Years and years of viewing, hours of television, to lead to an unsatisfying and unsatisfactory climax that makes no sense. That might just have put viewers off altogether. It's a whole combination of everything. Everything went wrong in that last series, and it was awful. Sure, we all know the journey can be more important than the destination, but when the destination is such a great disappointment, the journey does become tainted. It sucked mightily. Still, fans do have the option of watching until Season 8, Episode 3, and then stopping. That cuts out Jaime's return to Cersei, it cuts out Daenerys' turn to complete destruction and death, and it cuts out King Bran. Arya, being the person who killed the Night King, came out a bit of left field, but she's a fan favourite character, so they can get away with it. And we can all imagine that Sansa became Queen of the Seven Kingdoms like she should have done. Or feel your preferred ending. Now, I've got to admit, I think Sansa was a weak, sort of vapid character. I didn't think much of her. She was there and she was fine, but there was nothing major. Then she had the growing up with the attack, but she still wasn't strong. And I didn't really sort of. She was alright, didn't dislike her, but she was a bit of fluff. There was nothing there. But then you have that scene at towards the end. I've got to be honest, it's one of the best scenes. And they wheel Arya in, and then she sits there and she's on there and she says, "You are charged with treason, murder, fraud, and all these sort of things. It is, how do you plead?" And then turns, "Lord Baelish." And I thought that was a brilliant scene. I've got to say, I did like that scene. I think that was a fantastic scene. And at that moment, she was a queen. That's when you saw it. She had it. That was her arc. Anyway, the drawback of the new series being a prequel is, like the earlier seasons of the show, it is a story building to an unsatisfactory climax. But the advantage to the prequel is that it doesn't have to yet talk about the ending of Game of Thrones at all. None of those events have happened yet. There might be some obscure prophecy, but there's no need to talk about Daenerys' rushed character development, Jaime's slide backwards, or Bran's baffling rise to power. And if we so choose, we can just pretend episodes 4, 5 and 6 of Season 8 never happened. And in the end, that might be the only way fans are finally able to forgive the show. Well, to be honest, it won't, because this is a different show. You can forget Game of Thrones and just watch this on its own. Forget everything you know about Game of Thrones. Just give House of the Dragon a go. I will be. Looks great. Let's come up and finish the video. Yeah, so I think you're quite safe in watching House of the Dragon without having to refer to Game of Thrones. I think you can safely put Game of Thrones away and just start clean slate, tabula rasa, away we go. I'm going to give it a fair chance. It looks good. I've got to be honest. Everything you see looks good. It's got some cracking actors in it. It's got the money thrown at it. I think HBO got this one right. And come the 21st of August, gonna be there. Gonna be completely there. Gonna enjoy it. And then moan that the episode's too long and you have to wait another week for the next episode. But that's how it is. Anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, I will simply say, if you like what you see and hear, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.